guys, I'm Garvit Bandil, a third year CSC Bennett University student. Bennett University is situated in Greater Noida. It offers courses like management, engineering, etc. Today we are going to discuss about blockchain and Metaverse. We will be discussing how blockchain works. We will explain you what is blockchain and its uses. We will even discuss about Metaverse, how you can earn with Metaverse, and more about it.
Blockchains are incredibly popular nowadays. But what is a blockchain? How do they work? What problems do they solve? And how can they be used? Like the name indicates, a blockchain is a chain of blocks that contains information. This technique was originally described in 1991 by a group of researchers and was originally intended to timestamp digital documents so that it's not possible to backdate them or to tamper with them, almost like a notary. However, it went mostly unused until it was adapted by Satoshi Nakamoto in 2009 to create the digital cryptocurrency Bitcoin. A blockchain is a distributed ledger that is completely open to anyone. They have an interesting property. Once some data has been recorded inside a blockchain, it becomes very difficult to change it. So how does that work? Well, let's take a closer look at a block. Each block contains some data, the hash of the block and the hash of the previous block. The data that is stored inside a block depends on the type of blockchain. The Bitcoin blockchain, for example, stores the details about a transaction in here, such the sender, receiver, and the amount of coins. A block also has a hash. You can compare a hash to a fingerprint. It identifies a block and all its contents, and it's always unique, just as a fingerprint. Once a block is created, its hash is being calculated. Changing something inside the block will cause the hash to change. So in other words, hashes are very useful when you want to detect changes to blocks. If the fingerprint of a block changes, it no longer is the same block. The third element is that each block is the hash of previous block. This effectively creates a chain of blocks, and this technique that makes a blockchain so secure. Let's take an example. Here we have chain of 3 blocks. As you can see, each block has a hash and the hash of the previous block. So block number 3 points to block number 2 and number 2 points to number 1. Now the first block is a bit special. It cannot point to previous block because it's the first one. We call this Genesis block. Now let's say that you tamper with the second block. This causes the hash to block changes elsewhere. In turn, that will make block 3 and all following blocks invalid because they no longer store a valid hash of the previous block. So changing a single block will make all following blocks invalid. But using hash is not enough to prevent tampering. Computers these days are very fast and can calculate hundreds of thousands of hashes per second. You can effectively tamper with a block and recalculate all the hashes of other blocks to make your blockchain valid again. So to mitigate this, blockchain has something called proof of work. It's a mechanism that slows down the creation of new blocks. In Bitcoin case, it takes about 10 minutes to calculate the required proof of work and a new blockchain to the chain. This mechanism makes it very hard to tamper with the blocks because if you tamper with one block, you will need to recalculate the proof of work for all the following blocks. So the security of a blockchain comes from its creative use of hashing and proof of work. But there is one more way that blockchains secure themselves, and that's by being distributed. Instead of using a central entity to manage the chain, blockchain uses a peer-to-peer network, and anyone is allowed to join. When someone joins the network, he gets a full copy of blockchain. The node can use this to verify that everything is still in order. Now let's see what happens when someone creates a new block. That new block is sent to everyone on the network. Each node then verifies the block to make sure that it hasn't been tampered with. And everything checks out, each node adds this block to their own blockchain. All the nodes in this network create consensus. They agree about what blocks are valid and which aren't. Blocks that are tampered with will be rejected by other nodes in the network. So to successfully tamper with a blockchain, you will need to tamper with all blocks on the chain, redo the proof of work for each block, and take control of more than 50% of the peer-to-peer network. Only then your tampered block become accepted by everyone else. This is almost impossible to do. Blockchains are also constantly evolving. One of the most recent development is the creation of smart contracts. These contracts simple programs that are stored on the blockchain and can be used to automatically exchange coin based on certain conditions. More about them in the later video. The creation of blockchain technologies piqued a lot of people's interest. Soon others realized that the technology could be used for other things like storing medical records, creating a digital notary, or even collecting taxes. So now let's discuss Metaverse. On October 28, 2021, Mark Zuckerberg went live and announced his plans on Metaverse. And just to prove how serious he was, he renamed his company Facebook to Meta. So what is Metaverse and how is it going to affect you and me and how can you be a part of it? The concept of metaverse is this. Throughout the history, we have constantly been moving towards more and more engaging mediums. We have gone from text to photos to videos. We have gone from reading books and papers to now spending most of our spare time watching TikToks on the internet. And the metaverse is what comes next. An internet that you're not just looking at through a screen, but that you are actually inside of. Take anything you could think of actually doing right now: shopping, chatting, or chilling out with your friends. Now imagine that in the time it takes you to just snap your finger, you could be doing that thing in a way that it feels real with other people who feel present in a setting that's whether you want it. To be living shared everlasting. Virtual universe that Meta visions of. The metaverse achieved through a combination of augmented reality, we known as AR, and virtual reality, VR, which they have said that they will subsidize the cost in an effort to get as many people on this planet to be a part of metaverse. In case I wasn't clear, this is pretty damn cool. Then there are some undeniable positives just like to get obvious out of the metaverse. Imagine you will be able to live all your fantasies in a single evening. You could be slaying enemies in a handheld combat, or you could be playing a quiet game with all of your friends which live far, far away. Or you could be playing chess on the street of New York and surfboarding across the Tropica of Bahamas. All with incredible realism, but at the same time the reassurance that you yourself are safe at home. And on a similar note, that there's comfort to the idea that you will also be able to express yourself. You guys know that you have a profile picture for your social media account, the kind of an image that represents you and the other people as well. In the metaverse, you just won't have an image. You will have a fully avatar, three-dimensional living depiction of you, but you in the way that you would want to be. Did you ever wish that you were 3 inches taller than you did? Did you ever wish you had a bigger forehead? Yeah, forehead. Now you can have one of your this. Any gender you want, any race you want, any animal, any creature you want. You are the one who chooses who you want to be. Pretty interesting, right? But these avatars aren't going to be like cartoons which you are seeing. The meta is working towards making these avatars more and more realistic and little less creepy. But is the metaverse too far away? I will say no. Actually, we are currently living in a metaverse. Digital things kind of have more value than the actual physical things. For example, just an example, let me give you a scenario. If at this very moment I ask you to choose between a Rolex or a verified badge on Instagram, what will you choose? I can assure that 80% of you will obviously go with that Instagram blue tick. So that digital thing have more value just than a Rolex. So it's one of the building blocks of metaverse. It's one of the most important elements to make metaverse, as any digital asset you own in metaverse will be an NFT. So how to make an NFT? NFT are of many times the smart contract, some come with perks,
But for now, we will be creating a simple image NFT. We will go to OpenSea.io, which is the largest NFT marketplace right now. The prerequisite for this will be a MetaMask account. You can simply download an extension from Google's and get yourself in. So now we will just go to create MetaMask. It will ask you to sign in. Okay, so I'll keep it a name Sharky. And we are currently making our NFT on Polygon because it's a gas free model. If we make it on Ethereum, it will get us some gas fees which we want to avoid for now. Create. And we just created our first NFT. We can even see to us. Hope we clear all your doubts regarding metaverse and blockchain and give you a basic idea of what it is. Thank you.